Something about NASCAR right now feels different, like the entire season is quietly building toward a turning point that no one fully understands yet. Two major developments are unfolding at the same time, and both of them are directly connected to what fans are about to see on track. One is a technical change involving tires at one of the most demanding short tracks in the sport. The other is an unusual pause in the schedule that interrupts the momentum of the entire NASCAR Cup Series season at a critical moment. Together, these two shifts are shaping what could become one of the most important stretches of the 2026 season, especially as everything leads toward Bristol Motor Speedway. The first major development centers on a significant tire change from Goodyear ahead of the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway. This is not a minor adjustment. It directly addresses a problem that has been building for several seasons at Bristol, where tire behavior has become increasingly unpredictable. Teams have experienced extreme tire wear, including shredding and chunking, especially under colder conditions. The issue comes from the combination of Bristol's concrete surface and fluctuating temperatures, which prevent consistent rubber buildup on the racing line. Instead of the rubber laying down gradually and creating multiple racing grooves, the surface has often broken the tire apart. That creates races where strategy becomes unstable and tire life becomes the only deciding factor. NASCAR and Goodyear have both stated that this is not the desired outcome. The intended goal is to allow rubber to properly bond with the track surface, creating natural grip evolution and multiple usable lanes, which improves both racing quality and strategic depth. To address this, Goodyear conducted extensive tire testing in November and followed it with additional OEM wheel force testing in March. According to Goodyear's racing leadership, the data collected during these tests showed encouraging results. One of the key findings was that even in colder conditions, the track was still able to take rubber more consistently than in previous years. This suggests that the new tire compound is less dependent on temperature, which is a major shift compared to earlier setups where small weather changes could completely alter race behavior. A critical detail is that this tire change only applies to the NASCAR Cup Series. The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and the NASCAR Xfinity Series, also known as the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, will continue using the same tire specification introduced in the fall of 2022. This means that throughout the same weekend at Bristol, different series will likely produce completely different racing characteristics on the same surface, depending on tire compound behavior. The possible outcomes of this change are extremely significant. If the tire performs as intended, Bristol could return to a style of racing where multiple grooves are active, tire fall-off is controlled but meaningful, and strategy plays a central role. Drivers would need to manage their equipment carefully over long runs, creating natural comers and goers throughout the field. However, if the tire does not perform as expected, the sport could face another unpredictable situation where tire failures dominate the race and strategic planning becomes unreliable once again. While this technical change is developing behind the scenes, another major storyline is unfolding in the schedule itself. For the first time in the season, the NASCAR Cup Series is taking a scheduled break over the Easter weekend. After a continuous stretch of racing since February, this pause feels unusual for both teams and fans. Although the Truck Series and Xfinity Series continued racing at Rockingham, the absence of a Cup race creates a noticeable break in momentum at a time when storylines were beginning to intensify. Just before this pause, several key performances shaped the current championship picture. Chase Elliott delivered a strong victory at Martinsville Speedway, where he managed to pull away from Denny Hamlin in the closing stages. That win reinforced his strength on short tracks and added another major result to his season. At the same time, Reddick has emerged as a consistent force in the championship standings. He currently leads the points and has built his position through multiple victories, including the Daytona 500, back-to-back wins at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and a strong performance at the Grand Prix of Circuit of the Americas. This combination of momentum and pause creates a unique situation in the season. All progress, streaks, and rivalries are temporarily halted. Drivers who were building confidence now have to reset mentally and physically before returning to competition. In motorsport, timing like this can significantly affect performance, especially when teams return to high-pressure environments without immediate continuation of rhythm. When the NASCAR Cup Series returns, it does so directly at Bristol Motor Speedway for the Food City 500, and this is where everything converges. The race will not only feature the newly introduced Goodyear tire, but also an increased horsepower package. This combination adds a new layer of complexity. More horsepower increases throttle sensitivity, reduces margin for error, and amplifies driver input demands. At the same time, the tire compound introduces uncertainty in how grip will evolve over long runs. Bristol itself is already one of the most demanding circuits in motorsport. Its tight corners, high banking, and enclosed layout leave very little room for correction. Even minor mistakes can result in contact or significant position loss. Adding both a new tire and increased horsepower transforms the race into an even more unpredictable environment, where adaptation becomes more important than raw speed alone. This race also marks the beginning of a critical stretch in the schedule. After Bristol, the season moves to Kansas Speedway, followed by Talladega Superspeedway, then the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Later, the calendar includes a unique event at Naval Base Coronado for the Anderson 250, before eventually building toward the season finale at Homestead Miami Speedway. Each of these events plays a role in shaping the championship picture, but Bristol stands out as the first major test after the seasonal reset. From a competitive standpoint, this race becomes less about pure speed and more about adaptation. Drivers like Reddick enter with strong momentum and aggressive racecraft, while Elliott brings precision and strong track reading ability, especially on short tracks. Denny Hamlin, with extensive experience at Bristol-type circuits, remains one of the most capable drivers in managing changing track conditions and long-run strategy execution. The key factors that will determine performance include tire management, track evolution, horsepower control, and restart execution. Each of these elements interacts directly with the new conditions introduced for this race. The driver who adapts fastest to changing grip levels and manages their equipment most effectively will likely gain the advantage, regardless of starting position or raw speed. However, there is also a clear risk embedded in this combination of changes. Goodyear is attempting to solve a long-standing issue at Bristol, but there is still uncertainty about whether the balance has been fully achieved. When tire behavior is unpredictable and horsepower is increased simultaneously, the margin for error becomes extremely small. Small miscalculations in setup or driving style could have amplified consequences over long runs. This creates two possible directions for the race outcome. One possibility is that Bristol delivers a balanced, competitive event where tire wear, strategy, and multiple racing lines define the outcome. The other is a return to chaos, where tire issues dominate the race and strategy becomes secondary to survival and adaptability under inconsistent conditions. As everything builds toward race day, the significance of this moment becomes increasingly clear. This is not just another stop in the season. It represents a convergence of technical change, schedule disruption, and competitive momentum all arriving at the same time. The outcome has the potential to shape how the rest of the early season unfolds, especially if one team or driver manages to adapt faster than the rest of the field. There is a real possibility that this race will be remembered as a defining moment in the 2026 season. It could be the event where performance trends begin to stabilize under the new package, or it could be the race that forces NASCAR and Goodyear to revisit their approach entirely. In either case, the impact will extend far beyond a single weekend at Bristol.